Jake Morrison gripped the cold metal rail of the bridge as he stared at the alien city through the thick glass window. The buildings looked like giant crystals growing from the ground, catching the light from two bright suns and throwing rainbow colors across the landscape. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. This was the first alien city any human had ever seen up close. The ship called New Horizons had been floating in space for 3 months, hidden behind large rocks in the asteroid belt that surrounded the solar system. During all that time, the crew had been watching and learning about the aliens who lived on the planet below. They called themselves the Zelani, and they seemed peaceful enough. They spent their days trading goods between their cities and growing strange plants that glowed in the dark. Amy Carter walked up behind Jake carrying a tablet full of information. She was young for a lieutenant, but she was smart and knew how to talk to people. The government back on Earth had chosen her specially for this mission because they needed someone who could make the aliens trust them. "Captain, we've finished all the scans," Amy said quietly. "The team knows everything about their technology, their military, and how their society works. Commander Johnson says we're ready to make contact." Jake nodded but kept looking at the alien city. He thought about how long humans had dreamed of this moment. For hundreds of years, people had wondered if there was other life in the universe. Now they knew for sure, and it was Jake's job to make sure this first meeting went perfectly. Pete Johnson came onto the bridge carrying a thick folder full of papers. He was older than the others and had fought in wars before joining the space program. The scars on his hands told stories of battles from long ago. Earth Command had sent him because they needed someone who understood strategy and planning. "The diplomatic team is ready," Pete said. "We've prepared gifts of basic technology to share with them. Fusion reactors that will give them clean energy, medical supplies to help sick people, and seeds for crops that grow better than what they have now." Jake smiled a little. The plan was simple but smart. Humans would arrive as friends who wanted to help and learn. They would share some of their technology and culture. The aliens would be happy to meet them and would want to trade and work together. Everyone would think it was a great success, but there was much more happening than what anyone could see. Down in the lower part of the ship, Lisa Brooks was meeting with her team of soldiers. They wore normal clothes instead of uniforms, and their weapons were hidden in boxes marked as scientific equipment. Lisa had been a Marine for 15 years and had seen combat on 3 different planets where humans had colonies. She knew how to fight, but more importantly, she knew how to watch and learn without being noticed. "Listen up," Lisa said to her team. "While the diplomats are shaking hands and making friends, we have real work to do. I want complete maps of every military base, every weapons factory, and every important building on this planet. I want to know how many soldiers they have, what kind of weapons they use, and how fast they can move their armies." One of her soldiers, a quiet man named Rick Palmer, raised his hand. "How do we do all that without them knowing we're spying on them?" Lisa grinned. "Easy. We tell them we're scientists who want to study their culture. We ask polite questions about their history and their cities. We take pictures of their art and their buildings. We act like curious tourists, and they'll show us everything we want to see." The plan had been worked out years before the ship ever left Earth. Human leaders knew that meeting aliens would be dangerous. Even if the aliens seemed friendly, there was no way to know if that would always be true. So humans needed to learn everything they could about any aliens they met, just in case they ever had to fight them. Back on the bridge, Jake was talking to Earth through a communication system that used quantum particles to send messages faster than light. The person on the other end was General Patricia Hill, who ran the entire human space program from a secret base under the mountains of Colorado. "Remember, Captain," General Hill's voice came through the speakers. "You are not just making first contact. You are starting a process that will determine humanity's place in the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. Be friendly, be helpful, but always be learning." Jake understood. This was not just about saying hello to aliens. This was about making sure humans would survive and grow stronger in a universe full of other intelligent species. If humans seemed weak or stupid, the aliens might decide to conquer them or destroy them. But if humans seemed too strong or dangerous, the aliens might attack them before they could defend themselves. The perfect approach was to seem helpful and harmless, while secretly becoming more powerful. Amy finished preparing the translation. Computers that would let humans and aliens talk to each other. The machines had been learning the Zilani language for months by listening to their radio communications. Now they could translate almost anything the aliens might say. "Captain, we're receiving a message from the planet," Amy reported. "The Zilani government wants to know who we are and why we're here." Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change everything. He picked up the communication device and spoke slowly and clearly. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration ship New Horizons. We come from a planet called Earth, many light years from here. We are peaceful explorers who want to learn about other forms of life in the universe. We hope we can be friends and share knowledge with you." The response came back quickly. The alien voice sounded musical, like someone singing instead of talking. The translation computer turned it into English words. "Welcome, humans from Earth. We are the Zilani and we greet you with joy. We have never met visitors from other stars before. Please come to our world so we can meet face to face and celebrate this historic moment." Jake looked at Amy and Pete and they both nodded. This was going exactly as they had hoped. "Thank you for your kind invitation," Jake replied. "We would be honored to visit your world. We bring gifts of friendship and technology that we hope will be useful to your people." What the Zilani did not know was that while Jake was making polite conversation, powerful computers on the New Horizons were recording and analyzing every word. Teams of scientists were studying the alien language, looking for clues about how the Zilani thought and what they valued. Psychologists were building profiles of Zilani personality types based on their communication patterns. In another part of the ship, engineers were examining the energy signatures from Zilani cities and factories. They were measuring the strength of Zilani defensive shields and the power output of their spacecraft. Every piece of information was being stored in databases that would be sent back to Earth for analysis. The shuttle bay doors opened, and a small ship prepared to carry the human diplomatic team down to the planet's surface. Jake, Amy, and Pete climbed aboard, along with Lisa and two of her soldiers who were pretending to be cultural anthropologists. As the shuttle flew toward the Crystal City, Jake thought about the future. Today, humans would seem like curious visitors who just wanted to make friends. The Zilani would welcome them and show them around their world. There would be ceremonies and celebrations. Everyone would talk about how wonderful it was that two species had found each other among the stars. But while all the ceremonies were happening, humans would be learning. They would study Zilani technology and figure out how to make it better. They would understand Zilani society and find its weak points. They would map every important location and count every weapon, and when it was all over, humans would know everything about the Zilani, while the Zilani would know almost nothing about humans. That was how you became the strongest species in the galaxy without anyone noticing. You smiled, you helped, you made friends, and you learned everything you could, and you never let anyone see how much you were really learning. 2 years had passed since humans first shook hands with the Zilani in their Crystal City. The galaxy now knew about Earth and its people. News of the peaceful first contact had spread to dozens of other alien species through the vast communication networks that connected civilized worlds across space. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in her laboratory on the Human Research Station orbiting the planet Kepler 442b. The room was filled with alien plants and animals that she had been studying for months. Her official job was to find ways to help humans live better on alien worlds. Her real job was much more important. Elena looked at the data on her computer screen and smiled. The breakthrough had finally come. She had discovered how to change human DNA so that people could breathe different kinds of air, eat alien food, and survive in environments that would normally kill them. But the best part was that the changes could be turned on and off like a switch. Computer, record research log entry 247, Elena said as she started typing her report. The Adaptive Biological Integration Project has achieved full success. Humans can now survive on any world where carbon-based life exists. The modifications are reversible and leave no permanent traces in the subject's genetic code. What Elena did not say in her official report was that the research had another purpose. Humans who had been modified could live among alien populations for years without being detected. They could eat alien food, breathe alien air, and even have children with some alien species. It was the perfect tool for long-term infiltration. Galactic scientific community was amazed when Elena published her research. Alien doctors called it a miracle of genetic engineering. They said humans were incredibly talented at biological science. What they did not know was that Elena had been working on the project for 5 years before humans ever met their first alien. The research had been ready and waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Captain Ben Hayes walked through the cargo hold of his merchant ship, Unity's Dream. The hold was filled with containers marked with symbols from a dozen different alien worlds. To anyone watching, it looked like Ben was running a normal trading business, buying goods on one planet and selling them on another. But Ben was not just a merchant. He was a captain in the human Deep Space Navy, and his ship was much more than it appeared to be. Hidden behind false walls were weapons that could destroy alien warships. Secret compartments held manufacturing equipment that could build everything, from computers to medical supplies. The Unity's Dream could transform from a peaceful trader into a military base in less than 6 hours. Ben's crew looked like ordinary merchant sailors, but they were all specially trained soldiers and engineers. Katie Walsh, who everyone thought was just a ship's engineer, was actually an expert at building fortified positions that could survive attacks from space. Danny Clark, the friendly cook who made meals for alien passengers, was a demolitions expert who could level a city block with materials found in any hardware store. "Katie, how's the new depot coming along?" Ben asked as he found her working on some equipment. Katie looked up from the power generator she was installing. "Almost finished, Captain. To the locals, it looks like a simple rest stop for traveling merchants. They think we're just providing fuel and food for tired spaceship crews. But once we activate the hidden systems, this place becomes a fortress that can hold off an entire alien fleet." Ben nodded with satisfaction. Over the past 2 years, humans had built dozens of these fake trading posts along the major space routes. Each one looked innocent and helpful, but together they formed a network of secret military bases that could control all movement through this part of the galaxy. The alien governments had actually helped humans build the bases. They provided construction materials, labor, and even security, because they thought the trading post would bring prosperity to their regions. They never imagined that they were building the infrastructure for their own eventual conquest. On the distant planet of New Geneva, Ambassador Grace Turner sat in a meeting room with representatives from 16 different alien species. She was attending the annual conference of the Galactic Trade Federation, where the most important economic decisions in the galaxy were made. Grace looked young and friendly, with a smile that made other people want to trust her. She had been chosen for this job because she was naturally good at making friends and solving problems. But Grace was also one of the smartest people in the human diplomatic corps, and she understood things about alien psychology that even the aliens did not understand about themselves. "I propose that we standardize shipping containers across all member worlds," Grace said during the morning session. "This would make trade more efficient and reduce costs for everyone." The alien representatives thought this was a wonderful idea. They voted to adopt Grace's proposal immediately. What they did not realize was that the new standard containers were designed to fit perfectly in human cargo ships, giving human merchants a huge advantage over their alien competitors. During lunch break, Grace met privately with Zephron Krill, the representative from the insect-like Chitauri species. Zephron thought he was just having a friendly conversation with the charming human ambassador. He did not know that everything he said was being recorded and analyzed by human intelligence specialists. "Your people have such fascinating technology," Grace said as she sipped her tea. "I would love to learn more about how your biocomputers work. Perhaps our scientists could visit your research facilities?" Zephron was flattered by Grace's interest. "Of course, we would be honored to share our knowledge with humanity. Your species has already taught us so much about fusion energy and genetic medicine." Grace smiled warmly, but inside she was calculating. The Chitauri biocomputers were the most advanced in the galaxy. If humans could understand how they worked, it would give Earth a massive advantage in information processing and artificial intelligence. Meanwhile, in a small office building on the Chitauri homeworld, Ryan Murphy was having coffee with a low-level government clerk named Zicht. Ryan had met Zicht 6 months ago and had slowly become his friend. Zicht thought Ryan was just a human businessman trying to understand Chitauri culture. He had no idea that Ryan was actually a professional spy. "The new defense budget proposals are really interesting," Ryan said casually. "I imagine your military is planning some major upgrades to the orbital defense platforms." Zicht lowered his voice and looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Actually, the budget has been cut by 20%. The admirals are furious, but the politicians say there's no immediate threat, so we don't need such expensive defenses." Ryan nodded sympathetically while memorizing every word. This information would be in a coded message to Earth within the hour. Human military planners would know exactly how strong Chitauri defenses were and where the weak points could be found. This same scene was happening on dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Human businessmen, researchers, and cultural exchange students were building relationships with aliens who had access to sensitive information. The aliens thought they were making friends with interesting people from that new species everyone was talking about. They had no idea they were being systematically recruited as intelligence sources. Back on Earth, in a secure facility buried deep under the Australian outback, General Patricia Hill was reviewing reports from human operations across the galaxy. The walls of her office were covered with star maps showing the locations of every human trading post, research station, and diplomatic mission. "Status report," General Hill said to her aide, Colonel Frank Morrison. "All operations are proceeding on schedule," Frank reported. "We now have intelligence assets on 47 different worlds. Our trading network controls 32% of all cargo movement in this sector. The biological modification program has successfully placed long-term agents in 12 alien governments." General Hill studied the numbers with satisfaction. "And how do the aliens perceive our activities?" "They see us as helpful newcomers who are eager to trade and learn. Most species consider humanity to be a valuable addition to the galactic community. There have been no signs that anyone suspects our true capabilities or intentions. It was perfect. Humans were spreading across the galaxy like a slow-moving infection, but instead of causing disease, they were bringing gifts and friendship. Every human presence made the local aliens a little bit more dependent on human technology, human trade, and human expertise. The beauty of the plan was its patience. Other species thought in terms of decades, but humans were planning for centuries. Every trade agreement, every scientific collaboration, every cultural exchange was designed to give humanity a small advantage that would grow larger over time. Most importantly, humans were becoming indispensable. Alien worlds now depended on human medical supplies to treat their sick. Alien merchants relied on human fusion reactors to power their ships. Alien governments used human communication technology to talk to their colonies. If humanity suddenly disappeared, dozens of alien civilizations would collapse within months. But the aliens did not think about this possibility because humans seemed so friendly and helpful. Who would ever want to hurt such nice people? The galaxy was slowly becoming dependent on humanity, and no one had noticed it happening. Commander Nicole Thompson was drinking her morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. She ran to the control room of Deep Space Station Omega, a human observation post that was supposed to monitor space weather and cosmic radiation. The official record said it was a simple research facility. The truth was very different. Nicole stared at the readings on her screen and felt her blood turn cold. Something huge was moving through space at the edge of the galaxy. The sensors showed thousands of objects, each one the size of a small moon, heading toward inhabited systems. They were moving fast and leaving a trail of destruction behind them. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Nicole ordered her communications officer. "Priority Alpha classification. Tell them we have a code black situation." Within minutes, Nicole was talking to Admiral Susan Blake, the head of human military intelligence. The conversation was encrypted with codes that would take alien computers 1,000 years to break. "What are we looking at, Commander?" Admiral Blake asked. "Something that eats entire star systems," Nicole replied. "They consume everything, planets, stars, space stations, even the asteroids. Our long-range scouts report that they leave nothing behind but empty space. The alien databases call them the Void Swarm. Admiral Blake was quiet for a moment. How long before they reach inhabited systems? 6 months, maybe less. The Zilani system will be their first target. Understood. Activate Protocol 7 immediately. Tell our people it's time to drop the mask. Nicole smiled grimly. Protocol 7 was the plan humans had been preparing for since the day they first left Earth. Every human in the galaxy knew what to do when they heard those words. The friendly merchants and helpful researchers were about to become something very different. Colonel Steve Anderson was sitting in the captain's chair of the cargo ship Peaceful Trader when he received the coded message. For 3 years he had been traveling between alien worlds, selling human technology and making friends with local governments. Everyone thought he was just a businessman trying to make money. The message was only 3 words long. Protocol 7 activated. Steve turned to his crew and grinned. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime. Begin military transformation sequence. The cargo ship began to change. Panels slid away to reveal weapon systems that could destroy battleships. The cargo containers opened to show fighter spacecraft ready for launch. The friendly merchant vessel disappeared, and in its place stood a warship that could fight an entire alien fleet. All across the galaxy, the same transformation was happening. Human trading. Hosts suddenly sprouted defensive shields and missile launchers. Cargo ships revealed themselves to be military vessels. Research stations activated powerful sensors that could track enemy movements across multiple star systems. The aliens were shocked. In a matter of hours, humanity had gone from being helpful traders to having the most powerful military force in the galaxy. But the biggest surprise was still to come. Dr. Alex Garcia walked through his laboratory on the research station that orbited the gas giant Kepler-69c. For 4 years, he had been officially studying alien biology to help improve medical treatment for different species. His research had saved thousands of alien lives and earned him awards from grateful governments. But Alex had been working on something else the entire time. In secret rooms hidden beneath his laboratory, he had been developing weapons that could target specific alien species without harming others. He had created viruses that would only affect Chitauri biology, toxins that were deadly to Zilani but harmless to humans, and chemicals that would disrupt the nervous systems of the rock-like Terrans. Computer, activate emergency research protocols, Alex said as he began preparing his deadliest creations. Upload all data to the military network. Begin production of targeted biological agents for all known species. The beautiful part of Alex's work was that he had used alien research grants to fund it. The Chitauri government had paid him to study their biology, never realizing he was learning how to kill them. The Zilani had provided samples of their genetic material to help him cure their diseases, not knowing he was using it to create weapons that could wipe out their entire species. Agent Chloe Martinez sat in her office in the capital city of the Galactic Trade Federation. Her official job was to help coordinate trade between human worlds and alien governments. Everyone thought she was a friendly bureaucrat who spent her days filling out forms and attending boring meetings. In reality, Chloe was the head of the largest spy network in galactic history. She had agents and informants on every major world, inside every important government and in every military organization. For years, these agents had been sending her information about alien capabilities, plans, and weaknesses. Now, as the Void Swarm approached, Chloe activated her network. Across the galaxy, human agents began sending coded messages to their alien contacts. The messages contained detailed information about Void Swarm attack patterns, weaknesses in their bioships, and strategies that had worked against similar enemies in other galaxies. The aliens were amazed by how much humans seemed to know about this threat. They thought humans were naturally good at military analysis. They had no idea that humanity had been studying the Void Swarm for decades, ever since their deep space probes had detected the creatures on the far side of the galaxy. The first Void Swarm attack hit the Zilani home system exactly when human computers had predicted it would. The aliens tried to defend themselves, but their weapons were useless against the Swarm's bioarmor. Their cities began to fall, and millions of Zilani faced extinction. Then human reinforcements arrived. Captain Zoe Parker's battle group dropped out of hyperspace just as the swarm was about to destroy the last Zilani defense station. Her ships looked like the trading vessels that aliens had seen for years, but when they opened fire, the swarm bioships began exploding in brilliant flashes of light. "All ships, engage with maximum force," Zoe ordered. "Show them what human weapons can really do." The human fleet tore through the swarm formation like a knife through paper. Weapons that had been disguised as cargo containers fired projectiles that could crack moons in half. Energy beams that had been hidden inside communication arrays burned through swarm bioarmor like it was made of tissue paper. The Zilani couldn't believe what they were seeing. The humans who had seemed so weak and peaceful were fighting like demons from their ancient legends. Ships that should have been destroyed by swarm weapons kept fighting even after taking massive damage. Major Ian Foster coordinated the human supply effort from a logistics base that was officially listed as a fuel depot. Somehow, he managed to keep human forces supplied with ammunition, spare parts, and medical supplies across dozens of star systems. Alien military officers were amazed by the efficiency of human logistics. What they didn't know was that Ian's supply network had been built over years of careful planning. Every human trading post had secret warehouses full of military supplies. Every cargo ship carried hidden weapons and equipment. Every research station could manufacture whatever the human military needed. The war against the Void Swarm lasted for 18 months. Alien species that had been fighting the creatures for decades suddenly found themselves winning battles they had never been able to win before. Human tactics, human weapons, and human intelligence turned the tide of the war, but the most impressive thing was human coordination. No matter where a battle was fought, human forces seemed to know exactly where to be and what to do. They arrived at the right place at the right time with the right equipment. Their attacks were perfectly timed to support alien allies and exploit swarm weaknesses. Admiral Troy Williams of the Centauri Defense Force began to wonder how this was possible. His human counterpart, Admiral Rachel Kim, always seemed to know things that should have been impossible to know. She could predict where the swarm would attack next, what tactics they would use, and how many ships they would bring. "How do you know so much about enemy movements?" Admiral Williams asked Rachel during a strategy meeting. Rachel smiled politely. "We're just very good at analyzing data and recognizing patterns. Human computers are quite advanced." But Admiral Williams was starting to suspect there was more to it than that. Human pattern recognition seemed to work better than actual psychic powers. Their data analysis produced results that looked more like prophecy than science. The truth was that humanity's spy network was so complete that they knew about most swarm movements before the creatures had even decided where to attack. Human agents had been watching and learning from dozens of different conflicts across the galaxy. They had built computer models that could predict enemy behavior with incredible accuracy. When the last Void Swarm bioship was finally destroyed, the galaxy celebrated. Trillions of beings owed their lives to human courage and sacrifice. Alien governments offered to share their most advanced technology with the brave humans who had saved them. But a few beings like Admiral Williams were beginning to understand that something didn't add up. Humans had been too prepared, too organized, and too effective. They had fought like they had been planning for this war their entire lives. And maybe, Admiral Williams thought with growing concern, they had been. Admiral Troy Williams stood in his private office looking at star charts that showed the battles of the past 18 months. Red marks showed where the Void Swarm had attacked. Blue marks showed where human forces had appeared to help. Green marks showed the victories that had saved entire civilizations from extinction. What bothered Troy was how perfect the pattern looked. Every time the swarm attacked, humans had been in exactly the right place with exactly the right weapons. It was like they had known where every battle would happen before it started. Troy picked up his communication device and called his old friend Admiral Keth Vore of the Terran Stone Fleet. The rock-like Terrans were known for their careful thinking and good memory. If anyone would have noticed strange patterns in human behavior, it would be Keth. "Troy, my friend." Keth's voice rumbled through the speakers like an earthquake. "How are you dealing with the victory celebrations?" That's what I want to talk about, Troy said. Have you noticed anything odd about how well the humans fought in this war? There was a long pause. Terrans always thought carefully before speaking. Yes, Keth finally said. Their knowledge of swarm tactics was too complete. Their weapons were too effective. Their supply lines were too efficient. It was like they had been fighting the swarm for decades. Troy felt a chill run down his spine. What are you thinking? I am thinking that perhaps humans knew about the swarm long before they told us. I am thinking that perhaps this war was not as unexpected for them as they claimed. After ending the call, Troy began to investigate. He used his security clearance to access military databases from across the galaxy. What he found made him sick to his stomach. The Human Agricultural Development Program that had been helping alien worlds grow better crops was actually a terraforming operation. Every world that humans had helped was now perfectly suited for human colonization. The soil had been changed, the atmosphere had been adjusted, and the local ecosystem had been modified to support human life. Professor Linda Scott, the friendly scientist who ran the program, had been on dozens of worlds over the past 4 years. She always arrived with a team of graduate students who wanted to study alien farming methods. The students took samples of soil, water, and air. They planted experimental crops and measured growth rates. But now Troy could see the real pattern. Every world where Linda had worked was now dependent on human-designed fertilizers to grow food. The experimental crops had spread across entire continents, replacing native plants with species that only humans knew how to cultivate properly. The aliens had welcomed this help because the new crops produced more food than the old ones. They had no idea that they were giving humans control over their food supply. Troy's investigation led him to other disturbing discoveries. Engineer Carlos Rivera had spent 3 years building infrastructure projects on important worlds throughout the galaxy. He had constructed communication networks, transportation systems, and power grids that alien governments had requested and paid for. But these systems all used human-designed components that could be controlled remotely from Earth. Every communication network had hidden channels that only humans could access. Every transportation hub had secret rooms where human equipment was stored. Every power grid had override switches that could shut down entire cities if activated. Carlos had built the infrastructure for a galactic empire, and the aliens had paid him to do it. The more Troy investigated, the more frightened he became. The human cultural centers that had been built in major alien cities were not just places to learn about human art and history. They were sophisticated command and control facilities that could coordinate military operations across multiple star systems. Each cultural center had a staff of friendly humans who taught alien children about Earth customs and showed movies about human heroes. But hidden in the basement levels were communication equipment, computer servers, and planning rooms where human agents met to coordinate their activities. Troy realized that humans had built a complete shadow government that operated inside every major alien civilization. They had agents in every important position, influence over every critical decision, and the ability to control essential services that kept alien societies functioning. The most frightening discovery came when Troy investigated Dr. Samantha Lee's emergency medical research that had produced the weapon which finally defeated the Void Swarm. The targeted pathogen that could disable swarm bioships had appeared like a miracle, arriving just when the galaxy needed it most. But creating such a specific biological weapon would have required years of research and testing. Troy checked the dates on Dr. Lee's research grants and found that she had been studying swarm biology for 6 years before the creatures had officially been discovered. How had humans known to research swarm biology before anyone else knew the swarm existed? Troy called an emergency meeting with Admiral Keth Vor and General Zara Quinn of the Chitauri Hive Fleet. They met in a secure room on the neutral world of Harmony Station, far from any human presence. I have been conducting my own investigation. General Quinn buzzed in her insect-like language. Humans have been collecting genetic samples from every species in the galaxy. They claim it is for medical research, but the samples they take are perfect for developing biological weapons. Admiral Keth shifted his massive stone body uncomfortably. The pattern is clear. Humans have been preparing for war since the day they first made contact with the Zilani. Everything they have done has been designed to give them control over the galaxy. Troy spread out documents on the table between them. Look at this timeline. Human deep space probes detected the void. Swarm 7 years ago. They have been tracking the creature's movement ever since. They knew exactly when and where the swarm would attack. But they did not warn us, General Quinn pointed out. They let the swarm destroy 3 star systems before revealing their knowledge. Because they needed a crisis, Keth rumbled. They needed a reason to reveal their military capabilities without seeming aggressive. The swarm gave them the perfect excuse to show their true strength. The 3 alien leaders sat in silence, understanding the horrible truth. Humanity had used the Void Swarm invasion as cover for the most successful conquest in galactic history. While everyone was focused on fighting the alien monsters, humans had completed their takeover of civilized space. Troy thought about all the human heroes who had saved alien worlds during the war. Captain Zoe Parker, who had arrived at battles with impossible timing. Major Ian Foster, whose supply network had kept human forces equipped across the galaxy. Admiral Rachel Kim, whose tactical brilliance had won victory after victory. They had not been heroes responding to an unexpected crisis. They had been soldiers executing a plan that had been decades in the making. What do we do now? General Quinn asked. How do we stop them? Keth's stone face showed no expression, but his voice was heavy with despair. We cannot stop them. They have made themselves indispensable. If we try to fight them, our own civilizations will collapse. Troy nodded sadly. Every world depends on human technology to survive. Every government has human advisors in key positions. Every military uses human weapons and human tactics. If humans disappeared tomorrow, billions would die within months. So we are conquered, General Quinn said bitterly. But we helped them do it to us. The perfect victory, Keth agreed. They have won without firing a shot at us. We have become their slaves while thinking they were our friends. Troy looked at the star charts again, seeing them with new eyes. The blue marks that showed human help now looked like infection spreading through the galaxy. The green marks that showed victories now looked like the final steps in humanity's plan to dominate all intelligent life. Humanity had achieved something that no other species had ever managed. They had conquered the galaxy through kindness, helpfulness, and careful planning. Their victims had not only failed to resist, they had actively helped with their own defeat. The galaxy's new masters wore friendly smiles and offered helpful advice. They had made themselves so valuable that no one could afford to oppose them. They had won the ultimate victory, where the defeated never realized they had been in a war until it was far too late to fight back. Admiral Troy Williams closed his investigation files and locked them away. There was no point in sharing what he had learned. No one would believe him, and even if they did, there was nothing anyone could do about it. Humanity had become the galaxy's top predator, and they had done it so skillfully that their prey had helped them every step of the way. 6 months after the last Void Swarm bioship had been destroyed, representatives from every major species in the galaxy gathered on the neutral world of Concordia Prime. They had come to create a new organization that would keep the peace and prevent future disasters like the swarm invasion. President Helen Davis sat at the circular conference table, smiling pleasantly as alien delegates argued about the structure of the new Galactic Security Council. She looked like a middle-aged schoolteacher who had somehow found herself in charge of the most important political meeting in galactic history. But Helen was actually one of the most skilled negotiators in human history. She had spent 15 years studying alien psychology, learning how each species made decisions and what motivated their leaders. Every word she spoke was carefully chosen to guide the discussion toward outcomes that would benefit humanity. Suggest we keep things simple, Helen said during a break in the heated debate between the Chitauri and the Terrans. The war showed us that different species are good at different things. Perhaps each species should contribute what they do best to our common defense. The alien delegates nodded thoughtfully. It seemed like a fair and logical approach. What they did not understand was that Helen had just convinced them to create a system where humans would control everything that mattered. Humans would provide the intelligence analysis because they had proven so good at predicting enemy movements. Humans would design the communication networks because their technology was so advanced. Humans would coordinate logistics because they had shown such impressive efficiency during the war. Each alien species would contribute their traditional strengths. The Chitauri would provide biocomputers for data processing. The Terrans would supply heavy construction materials. The Zilani would offer their beautiful crystal technology for decorative purposes. But all the important decisions would flow through human-controlled systems. Director Nathan Cooper walked through the halls of the new Galactic Security Council, headquarters. His official title was Earth Representative to the GSC Administrative Council. His real job was to make sure that humanity's interests were protected in every decision the Council made. Nathan stopped at the office of Admiral Vex Toller, the Rigelian who had been chosen as the Council's military commander. Vex was a proud warrior from a species known for their honor and courage. He believed he was leading an independent military force that represented all the species in the galaxy. Admiral, I have the latest intelligence reports from our monitoring stations, Nathan said as he handed over a datapad. Vex read through the information with growing concern. These readings show unusual energy signatures near the outer rim. Could this be a new threat? Nathan nodded gravely. Our analysts think it might be remnants of the Void Swarm trying to regroup. We should probably increase patrols in that area. What Nathan did not mention was that the energy signatures were actually from human deep space bases that were expanding their operations. The intelligence reports had been carefully written to make normal human activities look like potential threats that required military investigation. This was how the new system worked. Humans provided the information that drove every important decision. Alien leaders thought they were making independent choices, but they were actually responding to situations that humans had created or interpreted. Vice Admiral Kelly Barnes commanded the new peacekeeping fleet from the bridge of the GSC flagship, Unity. The ship looked like it had been designed by committee, with architectural elements from a dozen different species. But the most important systems were all based on human technology. Kelly's second-in-command was Commander Jason Wright, a young officer who had volunteered for this difficult assignment of working with alien crews. Jason made sure that humans held all the key positions in the fleet while maintaining the appearance of species diversity. Commander, what's the status of our crew integration program? Kelly asked. Excellent, Admiral. We now have alien officers in visible leadership positions on every ship. But our human staff control all the critical systems like navigation, weapons, and communications. If we ever need to take independent action, we can do so without alien interference. The beautiful thing about the peacekeeping fleet was that alien governments had paid for it. They had provided the raw materials, the manufacturing facilities, and most of the funding. They had built humanity a military force capable of controlling the entire galaxy, and they had done it voluntarily. On the planet New Terra, Captain Michelle Roberts was setting up the headquarters of the Galactic Monitoring Service. The GMS was officially an organization dedicated to watching for threats like the Void Swarm and sharing information between member species. In reality, it was the largest intelligence operation in galactic history. Michelle's team included specialists from every major alien species. They thought they were working together to protect their civilizations from external threats. They had no idea that every piece of information they gathered was being analyzed by human computers and used to map the weaknesses of their own governments. Dr. Paul Martinez, the head of the GMS Research Division, had convinced alien scientists to share their most advanced technologies in the name of common defense. Chitauri biocomputing, Terran industrial processes, Zilani crystal engineering, and dozens of other alien innovations were now being studied in human laboratories. Dr. Martinez, the Rigelians have agreed to share their quantum tunneling research, reported Sarah Kim, one of Michelle's intelligence officers. Paul smiled. Excellent. That's the last piece we needed to complete our faster-than-light communication project. Once we finish building the network, we'll be able to coordinate operations across the entire galaxy in real time. What Paul did not mention was that the new communication network would also give humans the ability to monitor every important conversation between alien leaders. They would know about potential problems before alien governments even realized the problems existed. Back on Earth, in the secure briefing room beneath the Swiss Alps, General Patricia Hill was reviewing the final status reports from human operations across the galaxy. The wall displays showed a three-dimensional map of known space, with different colors indicating the level of human influence in each system. Most of the galaxy was now colored green, meaning that humans controlled the critical infrastructure and had significant influence over local governments. A few systems were yellow, indicating partial control. Only a handful of remote worlds remained red, meaning they were still outside the human sphere of influence. "Status report," General Hill said to her staff. Colonel Frank Morrison stood up with his datapad. "Operation Complete Success, General. We control 47% of all interstellar commerce. Our agents hold key positions in 73% of alien governments. Our military assets are positioned to respond to any crisis within 6 hours of detection. And how do the aliens perceive our role in galactic affairs? They see us as indispensable partners who help maintain peace and prosperity. Public opinion polls show that 86% of alien citizens have a favorable view of humanity. Most consider us to be their closest allies." General Hill nodded with satisfaction. "Any signs of organized resistance?" "A few individuals, like Admiral Williams, suspect the truth, but they represent less than 1% of alien leadership. Even they have not attempted to organize opposition because they understand that their civilizations cannot survive without human support." It was the perfect conquest. Humanity had achieved total dominance over the galaxy without anyone realizing it had happened. Alien species still governed their own worlds, but every important decision was influenced by human advisors. They still had their own militaries, but those forces depended on human technology and human intelligence. They still controlled their own economies, but those economies were integrated into human-dominated trade networks. The few alien leaders who understood what had happened found themselves in an impossible situation. They could not expose humanity's deception without destroying their own governments. They could not resist human influence without causing their civilizations to collapse. Admiral Troy Williams had tried to organize a secret meeting of suspicious alien leaders, but the meeting had never happened. Every communication channel he tried to use was monitored by human intelligence services. Every potential ally he approached was either already under human influence or too dependent on human support to risk taking action. The galaxy had a new master species, but that species ruled through kindness rather than cruelty. Humans provided technology that made alien lives better. They offered trade agreements that brought prosperity to developing worlds. They shared medical knowledge that saved millions of lives. Most aliens were happier under human leadership than they had been under their own governments. Living standards had improved across the galaxy. Wars between species had become almost unknown. Scientific progress was advancing faster than ever before. The only cost was freedom, and most aliens did not even realize they had lost it. Humanity had achieved the ultimate victory. They had become the galaxy's apex predator while convincing their prey that they were helpful friends. They had conquered an entire galaxy of intelligent species without firing a single shot in aggression.